Can you?
Yes.
Going to. Yes. Okay, so
Go ahead.
all right. My name is Daniele, and I'm a postdoc advised by Professor Mailce Borges Mota. This is lab coordinated by to present and types of figurative and literal uses of so the main objective of this study was involve of as native speakers of Brazil verbs in to understand what a phrasal verb is, how these terms according to race or discontinuous of words or other which is here to fabrication or analysis by the language. So money culture beings and here give up. So today I'm going to pray. So, and supralemmas here represented by the idiom hit the so the idea that the literal and figurative meanings compete with one another as the sentence unfolds, and access to the figurative meaning follows a spread procedure like a domino effect. So a number of studies provide evidence that various factors influence the processing of phrasal verbs, such as particle dependency, transparency, familiarity, frequency of usage, polysemy, and proficiency of the speakers, to mention some. So given the complexity involved during the processing, there were differences in the processing of verbs by Brazilian compared to native. This objective, this study addresses two research questions. Research question 1. Are there any differences word lexical? So the expectation is that one word literal and figurative meanings for speakers of English as well too. On the other hand, native speakers of English will process figurative and literal phrasal verbs and one-word lexical verbs simply. So the rationale is based who argues that literal meanings are always activated first by knowledge due to that literal meanings are established in their mental lexicon, says in process compared to figurative meanings. Research question: what are the effects of language dominance in processing the figurative versus literal meanings of phrasal verbs? So, is that Brazilian speakers of English as L2 will process figurative verbs more slowly than literal phrasal verbs. Native speakers of English will process figurative verbs faster than literal phrasal verbs. And the rationale for hypothesis 2 is based on Matlock and Heredian, who showed that we process literal meanings, for example, position, faster than figurative meanings compared to speakers of English. So data was collected remotely, and participants took part in longer. So the side page here scenario. So control the experiment using and hosted the experimenting platform. So the final pool of participants, 44 volunteers, and 20 non-native speakers of English. The control group consisted of 20 of English. So through different forms, specifically speakers of English on the Reddit platform. And all of them agreed to participate. So here, the biographical questionnaire. So all participants turned it the SAC task. So it was an English proficiency English. The third performed this contained 120 cents. Here I provide an example of our conditions. Task. All right. and then the words of sentence initially matter. So participants pressed the space bar to unmask the words, okay, once they read one masked. And lexical verbs and effects. On the left side here, represented by native speakers of English, so they read phrasal lexical verbs faster than phrasal verbs. And here on the right side, non-English group, they also read phrasal verbs, all right? There was was found for type, lexical phrasal verb. In addition to that, there was a group. So native speakers of English, so here there was no significant effect phrasal verb. So here represents lexical verb, orange represents the phrasings, and here on the right side. For the non-native speakers of English phrasal, color is the lexical verbs and the blue color is the phrasal verbs. On the left side, the figurative meanings, and here meanings. Readdressing the research questions and hypotheses. So this one was by the present in this non-native native lexical verbs faster than phrasal verbs. And both groups displayed similar behavior. Phrasal verb, their lexical equivalents to literal phrasal verbs and lexical equivalents. So this performance is interpreted as evidence that the figurative are in L1 and 2 processing. So additionally, length was an important factor during the process, and lexical verbs too was not supported by the results instead. Done during the processing of verb in English figurative and plus particles, phrasal verbs, construction. Brazilian Portuguese speakers of English as also did not demonstrate difficulty in processing figurative verbs as well as literal phrasal verbs. Native speakers of English also showed no difference in reading time, both literal and figurative salient. And here, summary of results. Native and non-native speakers of English processed phrasal verbs in a similar manner. Non-native and native speakers of English showed no difference in reading time for both figurative and literal meanings of phrasal verbs. And factors such as length of the verbs might have influenced the process for non-native speakers. So our main is that compared to phrasal verbs, lexical verbs still show a processing advantage, especially in written discourse. So thank you. I'd like to thank my advisor and my colleagues from LabLink. And here, this is my, please feel free to reach out to me. This reference.
Queria comentar mais tarde. Então,
Thank you.
muitas vezes, then we have
Yes,
Irina,
yes.
right? Are you there, Irina?
Yes, can you hear me?
Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you. Thank you.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Right. Everybody can hear you. And we can start the presentation.
And can you this I'm sorry. It's not full screen. Well, I don't
We found that the best way to present is if you put the entire
Okay.
screen option. Then you can put it.
Now is it okay now?
Yeah, and I think you can present. We can.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing, huh?
With human sound and in forest and in the to the south. But now we decided to are going to be any share the values as those students and so values. This is an ethnic group more than to yeah. More what is a culture and so such things. And in fall semester 2022, they were given this task to read the beginning of this novel by the Ninet's writer and identify culture values. We draw our research by Clarkhorn and Schwartz to identify cultural values and established the theory of basic human values. So the students familiarized with this, that beauty, activism, leisure, social status, health values. And anticipated this culture way the following. They had to read the beginning of the novel. they were asked to make keywords, phrases, or sentences, and then they had to explain what they thought they were asked to write names of how items. Better times come. Evil points people. Words have more power than you can imagine. The types of keywords that words such as loon, metal, pot, sledge. Other students sides of the fire, silly human heart, and others. And there were students who wrote out sentences like, no grief of a kind should stop the running of life. So we can assume that students perceive cultural values as that their evolution in different ways. Some of them constitute, others perceive better metaphorical images. Then students reflect on the values that they identified. Their opinions can be divided into categorical and non-categorical, like partially agree or absolutely agree, partly disagree, and absolutely disagree with the value. For example, students wrote, family values are important to me, but its customs and traditions, all their values are good in principle, but there is no need to go. Values are cruel, some values are boring, and some are unfair. So this is students' opinions. 44% of the students did not answered that they did not share the values of the nanny. 12% said that they partially share those values, and 18% did not express their opinion. So there were many students, 44%, we think, who do not share those values with the net people, and this can be maybe possibly a problem together in their interview. Maybe further what to do with this research, how to continue it, maybe take more for this experiment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ina. It was very interesting indeed. So, Lucky you. Lucky try then. Thank you, Mandy. And to you feel comfortable.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to everybody. I'm 6 hours ahead. So. Let's talk about the happiness. Which is or счастье in Russian bilinguals in comparison the idea to describe the bilingual mind. And then I decided that I most probably will be reveal similarities and differences of the state of happiness in bilingual and monolingual. Or of a phenomenon. So conceptualization can vary or the category different as a flower in a bouquet. The thing in the of these profiles can be more than shows the happiness. One of the basic concepts. Cultural concepts are names fundamental basic units of the worldview, which have existential significance for the individual and for language or community as a whole community. As a cultural value, happiness is identified, associated with an individual, as well as with the with an individual as with the holder of that state, the state of happiness. But it is also has national characteristics that are specific to some ethnicities. Conceptosphere of different nations differ from each other. It is by cultural concepts that cultures are distinguished, and this similarity of semantic differences of cultures. At the same time, happiness is obviously has a strong individual. The concept is closely related to the individual's thinking and it's directly based on his or her person's experience, emotions, and thinking mechanism. And the influence of thinking mechanism, emotions, experience on the concept is fundamental. Perception and emotional experiences, understanding of this experience transform the concept, supplementing and extending the concept until a new concept is formed. So that's the case of the happiness. It's very difficult to identify, is it a cultural concept or individual? Of course, it's a fundamental concept for any culture, but at the same time, I start my my research by the simple approach of the response to describe or give the word happiness. I've got like for example, presented on this, I think, is a subjective idea and it's understood by everyone. I think everyone, technically I can withdraw nothing from the answer from monolingual group and from bilinguals. I think everyone understands happiness in her own way. So character. But individual concepts, they are, despite the difference between individual concepts and cultural concepts, they are very closely linked in a certain way. For example, cultural concepts are created from individual concepts. Some poets, writers can create cultural concepts, and individual concepts may be created in the process of encountering, learning cultural concepts. I'm interested in how the conceptualization is open in case of lingual culture in a bilingual mind. So the conceptualization in bilingual mind can be affected by the concept of both languages. It's obvious when they are different, but less obvious, but also can take place when concepts are very close. To analyze similarities and differences in Russian values and Russian monuments. So I have like 2 minutes on the language situation in Belarus. There is a very specific diglossic situation in Belarus, which is characterized by the presence of more than one language in the country, Russian and Belarusian, and the total dominance of the Russian language. Belarusian language is currently losing its communicative power, but at the same time maintaining its symbolic function of a national identity. I will try to illustrate it by the example. Here are the results of 4 different national censuses that every 10 years. The last one was organized recently. Okay. And here we have the results. As you can see, normally when in 1999 85.6% Belarusians consider Belarusian language, the Belarusian language as their mother tongue, but at the same time, only 14.3% Russians speak Belarusian also communication. And we can see the decreasing number of people using Russian at home while communicating with friends, family, at work, etc., etc. The number is decreasing, but the correlation is more or less the same. So normally twice speakers use in actual communication. They still consider it as so there are different studies that also underline the role of Russian lingua. For example, the Russian language in the new independent states 2007. So that revealed that 59% of the Russians prefer to read the press in Russian, and up to 90% watch TV shows, TV in general, in Russian. As a result, we have all Belarusian TV channels that's quite interesting. Belarusian. For example, in 2002 say that we have the situation of unbalanced bilingualism based on on a common history of Belarusian and Russian people, and on a very strong systems kinship. The kinship of the languages leads to a significant level of intercultural understanding with both. Can suppose that values and stereotypes common for Russian and Belarusian culture have in bilingual people's linguistic consciousness. So the concept test control system called BAT test that was conducted among Russian and Belarusian bilinguals. So these are students of Belarusian University. Belarusian and is from St. Petersburg and Nizhny Novgorod. So as you can see, students, all groups of the cultural concept, current research, because the parameter to be analyzed is the monolingual. As you can see, other parameters are more or less balanced. So to identify the dominant language among Belarusian bilinguals, following questions were asked. For example, what was the language of school education? What language do you use to communicate with the family, friends, at the university, at work, to read books? Was new to you, but understood equally all to speak language you choose. And the results you can see. So the number of students speaking Russian is 70.5% and Belarusian 28%. But all of them themselves as bilingual, and which can be true because the Belarusian language and both Belarusian and language and Russian language are compulsory during school education. And the data collected during the test were grouped into associative fields titled monolingual field, and each field represents a set of associations, and each of these two associative fields have their central and marginal zones. So we can see that monolingual field as a central zone is represented by sentiments of love and joy. The closest periphery is health, comfort, dream, warmth, and freedom, and to be positive. And here we have the further marginal zone. Here we have the associations that repeated of associations are two, so they and here we get a set of associations discovered also negative associations on a stimulus happiness, which was far away, and there is no happiness. If we compare it to the results that we got from bilingual group, we can see that happiness is built mostly around family and sentiment of so the closest perfect zone is smile, sunshine, tranquility, warmth, freedom, and well-being. Cross cultural areas, conceptual areas here. The marginal zone by in France was people missing sun and summer here. People and the answer is E or I. Control conversation when I asked the students to add adjectives to the word so that we go from those. Happiness is considered or perceived as something big and great, but at the same time clean. That would differentiate concept of happiness among monolinguals. When human in sense of simple, like human happiness, simple happiness, little, as unexpected and real. Here we can see also some similarities. Second, next question was about the and the beam. It was it. So what does happiness do? It comes, it is, happiness is, it motivates, inspires, brings and gives. At the same time, for bilinguals, happiness also can cause the joy, can change you in some way, make us better or treat or safe. And at the same time, only in this area with of it means that happiness and blind. The next question is about the distribution of happy in masculine gender and asked noun. So what we've got is humor. Somehow in a group of bilinguals, I've got a big group of cat lovers, so happy cat is associated with happiness for them. Also happy in the form of feminine gender is a noun, happy life, mother, and good. And only fourth place for bilinguals. And the neutral gender, where we've got childhood, place, was, and if in Russian word they Russian language life is neutral gender, childhood, future, time, and child. Happiness is future, not only in like child. Oh yes, time. Yeah.
But if you minutes, it will be.
Yes, I can. So that's I will just jump to explain to add some missing parts to describe the happiness. Like it means something is happiness, but, and here we've got some constraints. What can be considered as fear or limitation? I can got the results. So technically, I explained the first part. So the last part is the results based. So to sum it up, this result for modeling by the time, or it requires limited by required work, sacrifice, responsibility, and the position of real or not real life. It's money popped up here. It's a small happiness, not real, just a paper. Nothing important, but still can be considered as happiness. So in this way, we can do the representation of speakers, language speakers, but also in language, for proverbs, in literature, etc., etc. So just to understand, is the language experience represented of the maybe not usually is.
Don't worry, Marina. Okay, we have time, right? But just for organization's sake. But thank you so much. Okay, it was a very interesting study. Let's see. After Marina, we have Gila, Luisa, and Rafaela. Are you guys there?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Because so now we have Jamila, Rafaela, and Luisa presenting for us. So anytime you can start.
So good morning to everyone. I'm Luisa. I'm an undergraduate student in the Master of Language at UFLA. This is Rafaela, research partner. She is an undergraduate student in 8th semester of study language at UFLA. Research. So the structure of presentation is composed with introduction, the skills, process, teaching. So actually, what we expect to read it due to the education of abilities. So this is what because of willingness to combat mitigate the educational amount of research reading in the psychology connect education. one of the main points in the educational environment, and this paper was released this year. And we use this paper because we want better impact benefits of writing skills in education and how we can improve this ability with people who are learning another language. Writing is in which many areas, attentional, textual, language, and so on, and then comes for attention. Writing is an activity widespread academic field and has a huge and important since it is used in publish the scientific project to make it viable. And English element. We know that writing is an activity complex with a lot of process and specific learning which shows the writing skills. Writing is a task not just present in the academic field, but also in our daily lives. And because of that, the importance or even the complexity can pass unnoticed so far as to be fully comprehended. Because all of this, we decide to do a bibliographical review that goes through the last years in order to investigate studies in psycholinguistics of bilinguals that have contributed to the learning process of reading. And we know the psycholinguistics has a lot to contribute to educational environment, helps improve many skills. And this review that I to do decision making during writing to mitigate writing in L1 and L2. So many authors have done out to still when backs on writing L1 to L2, L2 to 1, and all of them enter in the concept there is a type of skilled writing. And when the student get to this level, it makes a huge piece of linguistic knowledge and also test. And so this what is skilled writer? It writes very well because he knows the language and he knows how to use the textual genres such as articles, abstract, news, reviews, essays, and so on, during the right process. In this, allow the student to be a skilled writer.
So in order to investigate or even track this skillful writing process, it is possible to use some techniques and methodologies, which can be synchronous or asynchronous, and also non-invasive. For example, we found some methodologies as screen recording, eye tracking, keylogger, which I'll be explaining you now. The first one is logging is a program that works with the word text editor and requires action without any change to the editor's interface or function. If you take a look, you can see the numbers. I'm talking about them now. Those are the 5 models it has. The first one is record, which logs keyboard events and mouse actions associated with temporal information in milliseconds. The second one is pre-process, which works as a filter of the type of information you want to process. As example, keyboard, mouse, the word phone, if the internet was accessed or not, and so on. The third one is analyze, which allows you to of data analysis, and I'll be talking more about it later. The fourth one is post-process, which integrates different types of log files. And the last one is play, which play writing section that was recorded. So we'd like to highlight 3, analyze, like I said before, because it has 3 functions. The first one is writing process. We also have general analysis, which consists of recording each writing action as typing, deletions, pause, mouse movements, and so on, with temporal information in milliseconds, as you can see here. The last one is as notation, which records long keyboard actions. So it generates a chart of the writing process, which allows, among other features, to compare the final project and the process in terms of number of characters, and also to verify moments of higher incidence of pause in the writing flow. The data provided by the allow us to evaluate aspects of the writing that would not be accessible just by recording the final product. So through this mechanism, we are able to identify the burst of writing. So the duration of these bursts, which is about 1 to 2 seconds of pause, show how that is, it is possible to study strategies increase those basic process. Improvement very famous in the psycholinguistic hierarchy, and therefore studying in which area the participant is additional, long, and the steps it follows in its visual mapping. It is possible for us to present one of the heat maps to students so that they understand how
had seen arguments both sides of the debate. Some cognitive reasons that and was familiar with narrative texts. So they exposed to narratives since childhood, and they have been writing narratives for longer. So we thought that maybe they had expert writers. Yeah, and argumentative texts. However, we didn't find any differences. No for that might be that students, they are all in high school, so even though they have been writing narrative texts and being exposed to narrative texts for longer, maybe they, because they're in high school, they're practicing more and right for both types. Maybe the argument trouble writing argumentative texts as we thought they would because they were prepared, they had already that facilitated, and then there was no difference. And also, maybe because this then I had the second object were correlations the same student would write a more connected, there would be a correlation, and there were not relations between is so if it goes their work with maybe only the connectedness ones were significantly correlated in the second language because they have more experience writing both types of texts in the first language. So maybe they are equivalent in the first language. And they can have more experience writing either narrative argument essays for second language, and then we find we did find in LCC and LP, but we couldn't find in the repetition measures, which can also mean that maybe RE and PE might be less informative than the other attributes when we're looking at writing. There was a more connected English, and our hypothesis was that and they have more practice in writing in Portuguese. And this is exactly what we found. So the connectedness measures were higher in Portuguese, and the repetition were in Portuguese, meaning that they repeated less words, less combinations of words in Portuguese than in English. For narrative and argument text, for both of them, all the different words. And this is surprising because students had this in terms of linguistic knowledge. Also, when they're writing in a second language, they're not as proficient in the focus might be more focused on grammar, vocabulary, and spelling, and then there aren't resources enough for the higher order skills like organizing text, planning, and revising. And also less vocabulary, more repetitions. It makes sense if you have a smaller vocabulary, you make more repetitions. So this is what we found in the second language. Then we wanted to see if there were relations between, so we wanted to see if a person who wrote a more connected text in Portuguese also wrote a text in English. And we expected to find a relation between the two languages. In narratives, we find a correlation of the connectedness measures and one of the repetition measures. For repeated edges, there was no correlation. And the most surprising result we've had is that in argumentative texts, there were no significant correlations. So when students wrote narrative texts, it was more connected and also more connected. When we look at the argumentative text, we couldn't find, and this is something that's been, giving us some things to think about, because maybe they have different exchanges, maybe narratives, because they are more familiar, because they, have been exposed to narratives. Maybe in English, is different from argumentative text. So this is something we still, if anyone has any insights on it, I would be happy to hear too. And the last objective was to see if
you're a little bit over the time. If you
all right.
wrap up in about 1 minute or two?
I will. Yes, thank you. So I wanted to see if that range attributes in the texts in English, and we saw that yes, as proficiency increased, here the connectedness attributes also increase, and as proficiency increase, repetitions increase. So this is what we expect. More proficient individuals, probably more resources they have and more connected text is, and less questions they will have. And just some final considerations. Graph analysis can shed light on writing performance. This is something new, something that has yet to be more explored. Also, more studies comparing the two different types of texts, and the two different languages are needed so we can understand it better. And our next steps are to compare results of the present study with others yesterday, and also examine the writing performance in terms of these attributes. That is before going over time limits. Thank you.
Problem, but we have a little bit of organized schedules. Guys, so we'll like to hear this a lot. So, okay, let's see. I have you see, this is Jamila here saying that they are interested in using it in their future.
Yeah, that's very new. It's already new when they use it for oral production, and now we start using it to get written. We're still exploring, presenting on writing. Things we are exploring, we want to have more understand better how this works.
Right. Information if people have used for funnel production or
No,
that's all narratives, right?
only they ask people to represent something that happened to tell us. So usually it's a narrative too.
No, thank you. Any questions? Here on the chat, there at YouTube. We mean YouTube. I'm not sure on this morning. Well, I'm really sorry. Sometimes internet connection here is quite unstable. One of our monitors couldn't stream it out this morning. Let's see. Well, I have some for Irina. Irina, yet.
Yes, yes.
Oh, it's very interesting. It's people, right? I didn't very interesting that you're making your thing to the world.
Thank you.
And I want to know if they have different social statistics, like Are they in real life?
I hope not. So until recent years, we have integrated. They used to live in that taiga area of forest. And now, like in recent years, we start classes, so among students. But no, they are those kids that speak Russian fluently, and they finish school learning Russian, so they quite
They're
alright.
integrated in society. In
Yes, they are doing their traditional things, but they studied to university, some other job, and like that.
nice. So everything right, everyone else has right. Mhm. But anyways, you're seeing in your data that people don't really share their values.
We were
right?
surprised, yeah. We were surprised ourselves, but
Yeah.
probably nobody ever studied that before, and it's the first time also we decided to address the issue and just to see if our students share those values. Maybe it's a problem what to do with that.
So in a way, at least culturally, the sort of print not
Yes.
well accepted, right? In a way, right? Oh,
Yes.
right. So that was
Yes.
the first impression, the first. Right. Thank you, and it's very nice that you are analyzing it via psycholinguistics. Very pertinent work. So, Maria, congratulating on here. Was very meaningful for and among you guys presented today. Do you have any questions for your colleagues? I would have questions to everyone, but I want to give the chance to others, right? I had a similar question as the one by Leonardo, right? Daniele, right? And yeah, that's very hard because otherwise sometimes we get this effects that we so you told were phrasal verbs a similar way, right? Not really difficult, right? But that has never been investigated here in Brazil, right? With Brazilians.
Years. But the thing about the frequency because phrasal verbs they have differences and figurative control lexical verbs, one-word verbs, right, to control phrasal verbs. So, and verbs actually, they have this, they are more frequent than phrasal verbs. So, but even though I used this as a covariate in my, when I run the statistical tests, and it didn't show any effect. So frequency was not the problem, but I think the verb was a problem. a problem, but after that influences the all my maybe so, and that verbs is not a problem.
Yeah. Are you it's different levels?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Marina, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Marina. Very nice to meet you and our conference.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, just popped up on Facebook, some social network. I think I'm subscribed to Psycho. And then
I posted also on that. That you are interested and we're here today. I was interested to know the use of Russian, right? And how this imply differences, right, for this expression you have perhaps. And then why do you think for example, the proficiency in Belarusian is relation to Russia these days?
It's just because people use less and less Belarusian in normal and formal and ordinary communication, unfortunately. And look, I think that's a standard situation for any, especially like closely related languages, when you have a strong in sense of communication or language like English or French or Russian in this case. And to understand Russian language, it's not such a big deal, so you can easily understand. Vice versa, it's a little bit more difficult. And that's normal, I think, a choice of, I don't know, of a more broader way of communication, of possibilities. So that's what we can see now. But at the same time, it's interesting that even if the level of people who consider Russian as a level proportions like 50%. Yeah, very, very simple, pragmatic for work, studies, and so on and so on. Yeah, but this national symbolism, which is also easy to understand, having two very very similar, really, and very closely connected in history nationalities. No morphological diseases, no really differences. So very this instrument in this case. I we'll see. It's a very difficult story. We'll see how we'll develop the situation.
As a negative or industry?
From this point, my as a social linguist and so on. There's some natural processes of development in language and societies, and it's not negative, it's not positive, it is how it is. Yeah. So
because here in South America, for instance, we had some revitalization of sorry. And for instance, I realized Guarani is an indigenous language. And people only speak to now it's better Spanish.
Spanish, no chance anymore.
You know, people come. The movement so but the government of revitalizing in vibration. Yes. So
sorry for interrupting. And this movement is happening from the start to speak language.
In a way, those languages never. I don't know if it is because of the movement researching more and value, right? The cultural, linguistic implications of having those languages.
So here we also have like a movement of popularization. For example, audiovisual and so we had this like wave of dubbing and subtitling etc. So that's the period of I'll call it maybe so it was just
language these days, you know. So it happens in the minute. Patient give a native language.
И ваш микрофон выключен.
Russian. We give on the school level, it is called the native language in the Tumen district, for example. In the Tumen, they have an opportunity to get 2 hours in their native language by law. How it is actually expressed, I don't know. In the university, the official language is Russian. Some course English.
Because they don't have the learning in their quality as well. But we hope that politics change and cultural values better, right? I'm really liking to see this movement towards valuing the minority languages, and also universities that bring this this subject as well, right? Also in psycholinguistics, testing psycholinguistics and minority language is also. You see most of our studies on the dominant language, right? Yeah. We'll thank you all. It was a morning with our studies, and I feel, and it was a great, and I hope we can keep in touch. If possible,
Thank you.
join us later at the workshop by Wilson was, well, he's not able to give the workshop, okay? But then we have the at 4, and Natasha Warner's talk at 9 p.m. Okay, 7 p.m. Sorry, sorry. Oh my God, I'm so confused. The 7 p.m. Brazilian. I know that it will late. Maybe next morning the girls from Russia and Belarusian can join us.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much. See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.